This is Adriel Michaud from ActiveDEMAND. Today I'm going to be going over a session on getting started with dynamic content blocks. I think the dynamic content blocks that we've got in the system are really neat. I think that more customers out there could really benefit from using them because they have some really interesting use cases. And that's why I decided to do this presentation and cover this topic. I think I'll hop right into getting started with dynamic content blocks. So what I'm going to cover today, we have done dynamic content blocks in the past. It's been a little bit advanced. It's a little bit long. Today, my goal for today is for you to come out of this with knowing what you need to do to start doing one of these things, knowing potentially where you can start with one of them, and building one. I mean, they're actually quite approachable when you start to take a look at the steps, and they do some really neat things. So first, what is a dynamic content block? Dynamic content blocks allow you to personalize your website without being pigeonholed, or be able to personalize your landing pages without being pigeonholed. If I would like, a good example might be Jason Statham, the action actor. He'll only be able to act in action movies for the rest of his life because that's all he does. He's just a one-trick pony. And like that, some people with their website, they personalize right down to a particular industry or particular demographic, but their products or services maybe they can be used for other demographics as well. Dynamic content lets you kind of have your cake and eat it too. It allows you to personalize your website without being too generic. You can personalize it for very specific people and change it based on those people. Now, practically, what does that mean? As a web analytics nerd, better conversion rates. That's what I want. I want to see those conversion rates go up because we're able to target people with more personalized content. Sometimes, functionally, I want to block certain users from doing certain things. A good example might be if someone has a trial for the product already. The next time they come for the trial, don't let them sign up for a duplicate one. Instead, show them the login link where they can log into their existing trial. Show nearby locations. So if we can detect where that prospect is, why don't we show them the locations that are closest to them? Or if they're a customer of ours, why don't we show them their account manager contact info? That can be very interesting to show as well. Or this is a big one for websites. Serve up appropriate case studies or testimonials. Often, most of the B2B companies that I work with, they have many products and services that they offer. They have many testimonials for different industries that they use those services for. Now, if you think about that, that's like the targeting on something like that would be nuts. And you'd have to have this humongous website to be able to serve it. Or you personalize and you show just the right case studies or testimonials for just the right person. So that's where a dynamic content block can be really useful. Now, I'm just going to separate a couple of things just for consistency's sake. There's a couple of different kinds of dynamic content inside ActiveDEMAND or dynamic block. There are dynamic images. These are just personalized images. They're not a block of layout or text or anything like that. They're just an image. And the cool thing there is that you can use them just like an image inside your HTML code. You can just embed that image and away you go. There are dynamic content blocks. These blocks are personalized blocks of mixed layout. So you can have layout, you can have text, you can have images, all kind of mishmashed into one spot. You can have dynamic email blocks. Now, a dynamic email block is similar to a content block, but because we're sending it out to someone via email, email doesn't lay out the same as websites do. You don't have as much control, right? So those email blocks are built with that in mind, and they make it so that you can't build something that no email client will ever be able to render. So they're just a little bit more limited in that case because email clients are limited in those cases. So those are our options, and those are what we have inside ActiveDEMAND. And the thing to note here is that they're served by ActiveDEMAND. So if we need to put it into a website, we can do that, and ActiveDEMAND will serve up those dynamic images or content blocks or whatever. Where can you use dynamic content? Inside ActiveDEMAND landing pages is a good one. Inside WordPress sites through the WordPress plugin is very handy, or in regular sites with code. So if you want to put a dynamic content block inside a regular website, you'll need to have the ActiveDEMAND tracking script. That kind of like is a magic key to getting all this stuff running. And then you can put div code inside whichever spot you need that dynamic content block. And inside of email, you would just use the ActiveDEMAND email system to put those out. So most of this presentation is going to kind of go through a live demo. I'm going to get into that live demo and show you guys the concept of the stack. And in the background here, I've got an example of one of the dynamic content blocks that we use. So with this one, you can see that we're being specific to a location. So we're detecting the geo-IP of the person. We're saying the city, and we're showing the backdrop here is the Calgary skyline, for example. And you can see even the CTA, the call to action at the bottom, even that's changed. So we can change a lot of this stuff to better personalize what we're serving up to the client. So why don't we hop right into showing what this looks like and showing what where you can make these changes. So the first place I'm looking at here, this is a stack of images, and I just have a query over here. And basically what's going to happen is anytime this image is going to get served up, it just goes down the list. It's like the kids in the back of the car saying like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? So we check the first one, Atlanta, Georgia. Are we there yet? Let's see. Is your IP equal to, are you in the state of Georgia? If you are, we stop here. We're there. We serve up this image. If we're not there, we just keep going down. Are we there yet? Chicago? No. Are we there yet? Columbus? No. Dallas? Yada, yada, yada. And we can just keep going down. And these stacks can be quite large and still be performant. So you can see here that we have many cities that we serve up for ActiveDEMAND. When you get to the bottom, finally we get to the bottom. Are we there yet? No, we're never going to be there. Okay. Default version. We have a default version at the bottom. If we get to the stack at the bottom and we don't have anything yet, we just serve up that bottom image. So this is just a simple example. Dynamic images are, I think, really neat for this kind of a thing. With this one, we're just showing cityscapes, but you could use this to have a dynamic promotional area on your website that is very specific to what the client, what you know about the client and what you think you can pitch to them. The next example that I want to show here is an example of blocking content based on the user. So in this case, we have a call tracking sign-up form, and we have 3 things in the block. So just like the stack on the images, we start at the top. Are we there yet? Do they have a trial? If they have a trial, tell them that they have a trial. Are we there yet? They're blacklisted because of their geo-IP. So for us, we don't want call tracking from some countries, and we just give them a notification here that basically forces them to reach out to support. And if they pass all of these, they get to the bottom and they get the default, which is the sign-up form. So in this way, we're filtering out who gets access to that form using a dynamic content block. This is a great way of, again, blocking some places or some types of customers from using some certain types of forms. The targeting or the query that we use to see if we're there yet is under this advanced targeting. And we can see for this one, this call tracking sign up, if they're in one of these blocked countries lists, we use a contact segment for that just to centralize how we block countries and which ones we add or remove based on spam that we're getting and that kind of stuff. Are they part of the country? And we haven't classified them. So we use this custom field as kind of an override so that even if they are in a blocked country, if we have overridden them and said, nope, Bob's cool, I can vouch for Bob, and I set up his lead classification, then he will pass through this filter. Otherwise, if Bob's from one of those blocked countries, he would never be able to get to that sign-up form. So it's an example of again, a content block, and it's just the same thing as the rest of our landing pages and email builders. It builds out the same. The embedding in the website's a little bit different, but I'll get to that in just a minute. Another example of what you can do is personalize out a piece of content. So in this example, we're using this in a landing page, and this personalizes out a coffee cup that we use on some of our webinar invites. So this one uses the contact's first name, and it uses their business logo in here as well. So it's kind of cool. It kind of like personalizes the cup out for them. We found that this really helps the conversion rate on these webinars because it makes it a little bit more personal. That's a very easy thing to do. Now for us, we're using two different versions in here. One of them non-mobile, because we only want to show this on mobile. That we've found that like when we try to do this with mobile, it just like there's so many different screens and different browsers and that kind of thing. It's hard to get this to look right. So we're just doing this on desktop, and our desktop does this. And we use our advanced targeting to check the web session if it's mobile. So if it's not mobile, they get this version. They get the desktop version. And if it is mobile, then we just give them the regular template version. The next thing I want to show is a dynamic content block that we use in our blog posts. So in blog posts, you generally want some sort of call to action. We like to use really personalized calls to action. So this is a block that we would put in the footer of a blog post, and it changes based on what we know about the prospect. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can set up a stack. You can put the highest value items at the top. So if you want to prioritize the stuff that makes you the most money, you could prioritize that. You can prioritize what you know best about the prospect. Personally, I like to put the stuff that we know converts the prospects the best at the top based on what we know about them. So we have a call tracking one, we have an agency one, we have a CRM one, another agency partner, and then just a master like default one here that we have as well. And these use dynamic fields. So you can see we're using a dynamic field in there, first name. We're using the business name in here. We default to your company if we don't have it. So we've got some interesting little bits that we're personalizing inside this block. And if we look at the targeting on that, we're targeting based on some things that we're looking for as well. So that's this block. Now, what if I want to put this block inside a web page or something like that? There's a couple different ways. One of them is by code. So if I look at the short code over here, I'll see the div that I can pop into the website. But if I've got a WordPress website, I've got some, this can be even easier. So I'm going to pop over to WordPress. Here's integrating GoToMeeting with your CRM using ActiveDEMAND. There's a blog post I'm working on right now. And here, let me get rid of this blog so we can do it live. This is just the regular block editor inside WordPress. And I can see insert ActiveDEMAND shortcode. You bet I want that. Oh, and we've got so many. So let me just scroll down content blocks. Yeah, that's it. And I'm looking for website call tracking because that's the top one in the block. There it is. Okay, that's the one I wanted. Insert shortcode. And then bada bing, bada boom, I have the shortcode in there and it's set up right at the bottom of the page. Now, what does that look like? I could even preview this. So this is the preview view. Again, we're not quite done this blog post, so I don't have a header image or anything cool like that, but we can scroll down in here and I can see in the preview what it's going to, well, specifically what it's going to look like for me. So here I see, Adriel, are you interested in retainer growth? I see my logo. I see the brand name being used in there, and I see the CTA. So this is a great way to have a dynamic block that targets the user and gives them the right kind of promotion to convert them more effectively than just a generic one. If I just put a generic one, agency one at the bottom here, for example, and a B2B person came to my website, I don't want to show them the agency one because that's not what they are. I want to show them what they are. So this reflects based on who that person is. And you can see that we're able to target a number of things based on what we know about the prospect. So really great way of doing that. I'll just show you a couple more things on the dynamic block editors. We've got the dynamic block content versions on the side here. So you can see here I've selected the middle one, but same idea. We start at the top and go down. We can resort these if we want to, so we can move them up or down the stack. And again, that just determines when we're checking those, are we there yet queries, and because we stop. As soon as we match one, we stop, and that's the one that gets served up. So you definitely want your higher priority stuff at the top and your lower priority stuff at the bottom, and then a default one at the bottom as well. So really great way of getting better conversion rates and more specific stuff to your clients. So that's all I wanted to show you guys today, because this is primarily a quick little presentation in terms of what you could do. One of the easiest things that you can do now, the dynamic blocks are responsive. They can respond to screens and that kind of thing. But I would the easiest thing to try would be to try doing a static dynamic image block that you can then embed in your website. This is if you're in digital advertising, the concept of like a 250 by 250 is very common inside a lot of publishing websites. But for you and your website, you can use that as a spot where you can dynamically target and dynamically serve up a really cool, really relevant piece of content to your customers. It might be a case study, it might be a testimonial, it might be just what service you're going to pitch to them based on what you know about them. Hey, they went to this page. I want to show them this particular service on all the other pages, and I'm going to use this 250 by 250. So that's just a simple way of trying this. If you want to learn more, check out learn.activedemand.com. Again, that's where our ActiveDEMAND Academy is. It's got a lot of really great information in there. We have a podcast called Detecting Customer Signals. Because part of dynamic content, the fact that you can serve up dynamic content is fantastic, but you need the signals in order to smartly serve it up to exactly the right person. Sean and I did a podcast on this where we talked about how to detect these signals and what you can detect. So if you're driving to work, if COVID's over and you're doing the drive to work again, that podcast might be a great way to get some additional utility out of your drive. And then we also have an in-depth webinar called Website Dynamic Content for Personalization. That's very in-depth and goes beyond just this getting started presentation. So all in all, I would encourage you to try it out because it is a very powerful part of the platform, and it's something that you can use to improve the conversion rates for your customers and for the prospects that are on your website.